Wow. Alright. So, yeah, a little bit of a different pace of scenery for right here, a different camera. Just trying it out. But that's not important for right now because this is Teen Wolf, Season 4, Episode 3, called Muted. So, first off, this episode starts off where you meet a guy named Sean, or Jean, or something like that. And, basically you witness his family get murdered by somebody who is, we eventually kind of becomes known as the Mute, who is just basically this big guy who doesn't have a mouth and kills people with a tomahawk. And so after his family gets killed, he runs away and he manages to find himself at the Beacon Hills Hospital. So it's another kind of bigger-ish episode. We see both Derek and Peter have hired Braden. I almost forgot her name. Braden to find Kate because they want to know what happened to Derek's eyes because his eyes are yellow now, and so that's what they do. They hire him to do that. Whereas in the meantime, Scott and Styles are trying out or going for tryouts for the lacrosse team because all the positions are open, and you meet a character named Liam who is apparently really, really good at lacrosse. And so a lot of different things pop up throughout this episode. Before lacrosse practice, Scott tells Kira to wait for him afterwards, and he gives her a quick kiss. And afterwards he realizes, what did I just do? Because, they're not really together, not really in a relationship, and there's all kinds of weird stuff going on with that. We also see Malia, she's struggling with math. There's some funny classroom scenes about her and math. And so, there's that part. So we find out that, the sheriff's department is investigating the murder, and so they go in and they say they're bringing in like some federal agent person to help with it, and it turns out that person is none other than Braden, who tells Derek that she's going to go find out who this guy is that murdered the families and whatnot, and find things out about Kate and all this other stuff. So that's what she's going out to do. So at the lacrosse practice, Scott's not using his wolf powers because he feels like it gives him an unfair advantage, and so because of that, Liam is kind of tearing up. So then, and with his spot as captain kind of up for grabs, Scott gets a little angry, and then he ends up accidentally breaking Liam's leg. So they have to take him to the hospital. After that, as they take him to the hospital, Deputy Parrish is outside the house where the family got murdered, and he finds Lydia inside, who just kind of wandered there. And so then they find a secret tunnel under the house, and they discover there's a bunch of dead bodies in there. And so first you're wondering, why are there dead bodies? And you find out in a little bit. So Styles leaves the hospital, he leaves Scott there, and he goes to study with Malia, and they're trying to study it at the same time. They're kind of half together, and it's kind of funny because Styles' thing with the string last season with the red, the different multicolored string, Malia's doing the same thing with the highlighters, and so they're I think studying math. But finally at the hospital, we find out that Jean's what's called a Winnebag, which is a Wendigo, something like that. He's almost like a serpentine shapeshifter that eats people. So all the dead bodies in his house are his food. And so he eats the deputy guarding him, and then he's almost eats Scott's mom, but Scott's there and saves her. So Scott chases him up to the roof, but he had grabbed Liam beforehand, and now he's holding Liam, attempting to eat Liam, And then Liam gets thrown over the roof, and so Scott grabs a hold of him, and he sees Scott wolfed out and all that, but he's slipping. And so, in order to save him, Scott, does the unthinkable, and he kind of catches him with his teeth, thus giving him the bite. And he pulls him up, back on the roof, and then we see that the mute is back, and he finally killed John, and then he just kind of walks away. And then we're kind of left wondering whether or not Liam will survive at the end. But this episode was a lot more I think, of the starter-up episode for the rest of the season. Like I said with the past couple episodes, the first couple Teen Wolf episodes have a problem, and then the rest of the season's either like an extension of that problem or another problem entirely. And so that's what this was, boom, a stepping off point. I think Liam's going to be Scott's first beta, which should be interesting to see. Just, Scott's never had to deal with that before. And then, yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot more about Scott, and, well, also Scott and Kira, I guess, finally decide that they're a thing, and they kiss at one point, like the third quarter of the episode, which is cool. I kind of knew that was going to happen, but, it gets, we find out a lot more about everybody, Malia and Scott and Kira and everybody. I feel like this isn't really a very noteworthy episode, but it's a good plot episode. A lot of things get furthered, and I'm going to bring it up now because with the introduction of Liam, I want to bring up how my theory on a lot of how Teen Wolf works. Teen Wolf seems to like to almost immediately replace characters they get rid of. So, season 2, they had, Scott, besides, Styles and Lydia, Scott, and Derek, who were constants so far. There was Allison, there was Jackson, and there was Boyd, Isaac, and Erica. So both Jackson and Erica, well, Erica dies, but Jackson, leaves and he's no longer part of the show, or, at the end of season 2. So, season 2, they bring Cora, who's kind of like the replacement for Erica, and they bring in Ethan Naden, who are like Jackson's replacement. And then they kill off Boyd, and then, the other twin becomes Boyd's replacement. And then Cora leaves. Cora leaves the show, and then they bring in Kira, who you at first think is, Cora's replacement, but it turns out, when Allison dies, she's Allison's replacement. And then Malia is Cora's actual replacement. And then the other thing is, Liam is kind of like the new Jackson, kind of like the line. Every time they lose a character, they bring in a new one. Or, maybe Liam's replacement for Isaac, because Isaac did leave. So, I mean, that's just something that I've noticed a lot with this show, is that they seem to bring characters in a lot. I think this brings up an interesting thing for what's going to be for the future of the season, because, Arya, the leader of the Calaveras, said, if Scott bites an innocent, then she's going to come after him. And so, well, he just did that. So, that's just bringing up a whole big issue of things. And so, yeah, it's just making for a great season. I mean, again, I feel like this was just a slower paced episode, so there's not too much to talk about. So, yeah. Alright, talk to you guys later. Remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Bye.